Hello, listeners. Welcome to our English program podcast, Kaleidoscope. Listeners, how many of us dream of visiting a national park or a wildlife reserve? And what do we imagine when we think of these? I'm sure you must be thinking of the safaris, the forests, and biodiversity or other adventure activities. But do we ever imagine the people who work there? Do we zoom in to see what their life is like? And that is why, dear listeners, in our today's program, we will zoom in a bit and find out about the life there. Yes, today on Kaleidoscope, we bring to you the ecologist, author, and director of Ran Mangli Foundation, Anirudh Chaoji. Anirudh Chaoji has worked in the field of ecotourism with his company Pugmarks. And he was the biologist and the chief naturalist in Tadoba Tiger Reserve as well. He has also authored books like Janglatल्या Goष्टी and Wild by Nature, which gives us a tour of his life in jungle and the amazing experiences that such a life entails. These 150 experiences are nothing short of the most adventurous journey one can ever undertake. So listeners, let us also experience the life of ecologist through our program today with Anirudh sir. So Anirudh sir, welcome to our English program podcast Kaleidoscope.
Thank you so much.
Firstly, we have been meeting after 5 years. So how have you been?
I remember 5 years ago roaming around as a part of Pugmarks and traveling to Tadoba, traveling to Melghat continuously. So that hasn't changed at all.
Okay.
So now, of course, I'm also traveling to Assam and Arunachal. And then something that I want to tell all the listeners, what they should do is they should not be tourists. They should be travelers. In a sense, go backpacking. If you're going, let's say, to Assam, or you can go to Spain, or you can go to Vietnam, just make bookings for the to flight and the fro flight. And in between, you should speak to the locals. Ask them what is the specialty here. It can happen in Goa, because even if you go to Goa, everyone tells you North Goa, this beach, that beach, that beach. But there's so much more to Goa. I think as a traveler, you should explore that.
Right.
So yes, I've been a traveler,
Yes.
and also I'm a part of the forest department. So implementing various projects for the forest department involving the local communities, which means that communities should benefit from tourism. So yes, been exciting 5 years and look forward to many more.
Definitely, sir. So Anirudh sir, it is great work that you have been doing for so many years. But how did you turn towards ecology?
I've done my BSc Electronics, and ours was only the second batch to pass out from Pune University. I did electronics also for passion because I loved electronics, and not that I don't love it more. The problem is I don't understand it. I mean, it has traveled far ahead and I'm stuck to my tigers, monkeys and leopards. So I was very fortunate that I had a very different parenting in my formative years. In fact, even in my final years of education, my dad never knew what I was studying or which year I was in. But he always knew something else about it. So he used to ask me, "Are you happy?" I said, "Yeah, I'm happy." I didn't understand what he meant. So one day he asked me again, "Are you happy?" I said, "What do you mean by are you happy?" He said, "Anyone can do what he likes, but few people can like what they do. That is the difference." So as a father, he ensured that I was doing things which were out of sheer passion. So I did electronics out of sheer passion. Like many other kids of that age, I would open up every possible transistor, TV, and all those gadgets which were at home. And after closing all of them, I would still be left with 2 or 3 screws and nuts and bolts outside. Didn't know where to put them. But yes, that is how probably our learning was. We were then posted, my father's from the Air Force, and which meant that we were traveling every 2 or 3 years. We were posted in Nagpur then. And I don't remember him taking us for movies. So any long weekend, we would all go to different forests. So Friday, Dad would come back home. By evening, we would travel either to Bhandara. And those times, those rest houses, I'm talking of 72, 73, in those years. And in those years, then those rest houses, that watchman had to be woken up because we would reach only by about 10:30. He would open the room. Next morning, we would continue our journey. It would be to Rani Do, Totla Do, Itia Do, Nagzira, different forests. And we would check into the rest house and stay there. And that is the time my dad took us walking into the forest. There were no restrictions then. Not that we saw any tigers then, but falling in love with forests happened then. And we were not biologists or wildlifers. I didn't even know the names of 20 birds. But I said, beautiful bird, long-tailed bird. But my dad was a bird watcher, but he never forced it on me. What would happen is every holiday, he would sit also taking a small notebook and painting the birds that we saw in the last trip.
Right.
So what that did was very nice. I would only look at what he was doing. But there was something which I still remember very vividly. I think I must have been 3 or 4 years old. And some neighboring kids came with a catapult and they killed a bird. I didn't know what it was, but it was very colorful. So today I can guess it must have been a purple rumped sunbird or something. And I was all 3 or 4, and those guys were 10th and college, those kind of guys. And I'd picked up a fight with them. So finally my cousin had to come and pick me up and take me away to avoid any further. So somewhere I think in the genes. So all that came out slowly. How did it develop into a career is even more interesting.
Yes.
So I was working with HCL for many years and then moved to Modi Xerox, hardcore marketing and selling, but electronic items.
Right.
So there electronics helped me a lot, explaining to the customers better about my product than many of my competitors who didn't know electronics.
Okay.
So there I could explain technology, I could explain.
So you were good at what you did.
Yeah, very much. I was in love with it. So today, in today's days, if you may call it, I was the fourth idiot. But anyway, HCL, Modi Xerox, and the targets are very stiff.
Right.
And then out of anger, I would run away to Bhimashankar. 120 kilometers. And then at Bhimashankar, the whole of next 2 days I would spend over there. There's a road called the Bombay Road. Under the Bombay Road, which never happened, the environmentalists managed to stop that road. But the huge pipes were laid out under that. So I would go and spend my afternoons in that pipe. There used to be 2 or 3 bats in that pipe. And then suddenly around 4:30, I could hear the grey jungle fowl calling. Sometimes it would be the barking deer calling. It's time for you to go back. So that way, it started with me going alone. Sometimes my friends would ask me, "Kahan jata hai?" So I would take them. Slowly, we were a part of the Worldwide Fund for Nature. One day, Kiran Purandare, he had some work. And it was probably my first camp with WWF. But before that, we used to go trekking around Pune. But that day, Kiran suddenly declared that he could not go for the camp and he made me in charge of the camp. I said, I've never camped before. He said, no, you will do well. So that is how it all started. It started in Tadoba many, many years ago. And I would thank Kiran for giving that opportunity. So first, it was WWF. Then started doing camping for Bhumata. In the meantime, was running an ad agency. I was the CEO of an ad agency. Then I was running a newspaper for another friend of mine, Vijay Kumar.
Yes.
So all those typical young years of jumping here, there. But finally I said, yaar, yahan man nahi lag raha hai. There's something else which is calling me. And that is where I went into wildlife and wildlife camping. And then I think there was no looking back. So around 99 July, we formed what was called as Pugmarks, which eventually became one of the most popular nature camping organization for students. So if someone wanted to go to Lakshadweep, it had to be Pugmarks. Because in those years, competition was still not yet there. And we were kind of pioneering work. Of course, in Pune, we were benefited immensely by person called Vivek Paranspe, who used to run Friends of Animal Society. In those years, he used to take people even to Andamans. And then, of course, kids in Pune, they grow up with their parents trekking to Sinhgarh every weekend to Sinhgarh or Logarh. There are 200 plus forts that they would do within, say, 300, 400 kilometers traveling. So for us, when we started Bhumata or as part of WWF or even as Pugmarks, all that was done was we would call up our friends. तेरे बच्चे को भेज दे ताडोबा में टाइगर दिखा दूंगा. Tiger नहीं, but jungle दिखा दूंगा. So it started off very easily in Pune. So as my dad used to ask me, do you want to be a barber? I said, why? No, do you want to be a barber? I said, okay, I want to be a barber. So what? He said, if you want to be a barber, you must be a barber. Because then you'll enjoy your work. Otherwise, it will be work. My life is different. I'm traveling and I'm getting paid for being travel. So conducting camps. Of course, now I'm a part of the forest department and I'm continuing the same work that I used to do.
What is interesting here, sir, is that you did not start it from any business point of view. Like you started with targeting the kids, like what as you experienced as a kid, you wanted them to experience. So that is very interesting. And then it took off. Like
Also because we are not running it only on pure commercial. From the beginning, we had told ourselves, me and my partners are Anil Gupte and Usha Gupte. Right from the beginning, we had understood one thing. And Gupte Kaka and Kaku, they were in their 70s. Our mandate, our objective was very clear. That tomorrow people should want to invest.
right.
So it should be a brand to reckon with. But it should be a company, the moment you take the name, my kids have gone with you. So it was that kind of a brand that we built in Pune, Mumbai, Aurangabad, and these areas. But commercial interests were secondary. The first interests were the people should come back with a very positive feedback because word of mouth sells best. And then, of course, many youngsters also formed their own companies. If you look at it, they were like our competition. But if you look at it, we were all a tribe together. And there are many organizations that we are all a part of. It was Adventure Tour Operators Association, ATOM, Adventure Tour Operators Association of Maharashtra, or Responsible Travelers, or Responsible Tourism Society of India, or Adventure Tour Operators Association of India. So we are all together for betterment of this business in improving safety standards, improving regulations, and if there are any problems from the government side, how do we all come together and face them?
Yeah. So, sir, now when you're saying, I want to understand this, what kind of permissions you need to run this kind of business? Maybe from the forest department, or maybe the preparation before any tour. Anyone like who is beginning his business with your model that you have set up since 1999. So, what are the changes now you are facing instead of like 20 years back?
Yeah. Safety norms, I would like to say, safety norms have improved big time. Earlier, we are all doing very informal, amateurish jobs. There were a few accidents, and there are a few cases where there could have been accidents. So ropes used to be used, carabiners and harnesses. At some places, not just adventure activities in the Himalayas or Sahyadris, some places adventure activities in exhibition hall, where they would have bungee in the city, harnesses are broken. If you're in the mountains and adventure, where the probability of accidents is very high. India 10, 20 years ago and India now is very different, that if you want to send your kids, you can be quite sure that adventure will be done with very high safety standards. If I have to run a company in say adventure, I have to have basic mountaineering certification and other basic certification have to be there. People say, nahi, anyone jugaad kar leta hai. I said, that's okay. But 90% of people who are doing that certification are doing it. It's like, PUC certificate. You can also go and buy a PUC certificate. But instead you service your vehicle and then you get your PUC certificate, which is very good for the environment. So I will say, I'm myself a skydiver. I'm a scuba diver. I do rafting, I do trekking. But my passion is still more towards the forest. Everywhere I go for, I ensure that the instructors there are well certified. They have undergone life-saving skills. NOLS is there. If they're in India, they should be NOLS certified. So a dive master with so many number of dives, it gives you a little more relaxed. My instructor is well experienced. Those things are norm now. You have normal shop act license and all those MOT registration. All those things have to be done. So I might be certified in something, but if I've not done it for n number of years, that certification is useless. If it is a life-saving lifeguard certification, has to be done every year. So also, if you're an adventurer, you've done basic mountaineering, then you have to do search and rescue. You cannot just say, okay, I'm certified. Because the newer learnings have to keep coming.
And that experience of taking that certificate is going to help him do the job.
Absolutely. And do it well.
That is important, yes.
Do it well. I don't want to mention where it happened, but it was surprising. I and my very close friend, Munish Dave, we were in Pagmarks together, and then, of course, we are still together doing a lot of activities. We went to this particular place to check out the diving, scuba diving equipment and, the skill sets. The person who took us diving tied up his air tank with a big scarf.
Oh.
I said, where's your jacket? No, I'm fine. Then, you have to put weights in your pockets so that buoyancy is maintained and you know how many weights you require.
Right.
He put stones in the pocket.
Oh.
I said, this is crazy. And 2 weeks later, I heard that when he had gone diving with someone else, the cylinder slipped. That can be a very scary experience if it was the customer, if you may call him, the diver who had gone out. If he had undergone a similar thing, I said, scary. We are not going to dive here. About 2 years later, we meet in a tourism conclave.
Oh.
And he said, oh, Chaoji, I forgot to give you something. I said, kya hua? He gave me a brochure. I said, thank you. And suddenly I saw the brochure. The front page of that brochure had me in that diving gear. I said, I've been telling the world not to go here. And here I'm seen promoting that activity. Yeah. So, yes, I would like to say that please, whenever you go out, look out for the safety norms. Look out for the experience and the certification.
So, sir, we are coming towards the end of our first part. We'll end our first part on any 2 incidents like you remember in this 25-year journey.
I already have a book which talks of stories on the wild side in the jungles.
Okay.
But I'll tell you one of those stories. This was a solar eclipse, I think 93 or 94. And we had gone to Sundarbans. That particular day was the eclipse day. And we had gone to a place where the probability of sighting the eclipse was the lowest. Because Sundarbans gets clouds and, rain anytime. Yeah. So kind of celebrations. We were all on a high, nice experience, all kids. Ali Somji, our the late mayor, his son, Nuruddin Somji, he was one of the campers. And then in the afternoon, we went for a boat ride. So what we used to do, we would go a little inside the deltas. And then by little duskish, we would be back into West Bengal tourism rest out, Sajna Kheli. That particular day, around just started getting dark. And the boat owner, come manager, come our tour guide, everything, he comes and tells me, Chaoji, thoda problem hai. He said, gum ho gaya. In the delta, where there is no human being, and only if you want to ask for direction, you can ask a crocodile, tiger or a shark. It was pitch dark. And solar eclipse, new moon, so no moon to guide us. On that day, what happened was, navigator completely lost the orientation. And we were a little worried. We were on the deck. Of course, the stars were there. We knew which was north, which was south, east, west. Utna to malum tha. So we were generally heading due south. We were in the northern parts of areas of Sajna Kheli and Gosaba. Gosaba is the island. When I went inside the passenger area, I could already hear Ram Raksha, Hanuman Chalisa. So people had realized that something was wrong and we are not coming to our rest house yet. And that is when it was also the night of Lakshmi Pujan.
Oh.
And the rockets went up.
Oh.
2 rockets we saw, we said land. We know we have to go there. And my colleague Hanif Somji was with me. Hanif said, so rocket dekhe itna khush ke? I said, Arey, we have to go there. He said, Yane? I said, hum log gum gaye the. And now we have to go there. Yeah, that was one of them. Oh. And of course, lot of other adventurous incidences. We were in Ranthambore on 3 safaris. We had not had a tiger sighting. Oh. People were cool. I mean, not much, but thoda bahut आवाज होने लग गया था. सर एक टाइगर दिख जाता, बट सर एक टाइगर हो जाता था, सोने पे सुहागा होता. There's this person called Bhanu ji, very senior naturalist, guide, come driver, come everything, and a very close friend in Ranthambore. So finally, Bhanu ji came for a safari in a big canter. So all of us loaded into the canter. Some magic would take place and we would get some of the finest sightings. Oh. So we had this tigress all on her back, rolling around. Oh my God. And there was a sambar at about 50 feet away, looking intently at that tiger. So the tail would go up, the ears would gather all the sounds of the tigress, and very alert and watching. And we were seeing this whole experience in the forest. Finally, the tigress rolled over and kind of went on a pause. So the summer got even more alert. Oh. And eventually, the tigress started walking and the summer started giving the alarm calls. Anyway, I had made a contingency plan. So while coming out from the forest, I told Bhanu, हमारी गाड़ी last में जाएगी. So इधर उधर कोई bird देख रहे हैं, कुछ ये कर रहे हैं, and finally last 10 seconds you have to get out. Our vehicle moved out. Now, having seen that there is no vehicle behind us, we went to the main gate, outside gate of Ranthambore, where we call it the Gomukh gate. So there, I told Bhanu ji, बस रोक दो अभी, हम लोग यहाँ उतर जाएंगे. He said, यहाँ से आपका रिजॉर्ट 8 किलोमीटर है. I said, ठीक है, we'll walk. आपको गाड़ी भेजनी है? नहीं, हम लोग आ जाएंगे. So with whole bunch of kids, I think many of them were just given their 10th standard exams, and they were all with me. And Navendu Page was also with me. So we all, outside the Gomukh gate is a small bund and a water body, which is just below the hills. A typical place where wildlife should come in the evening for a drink. So we all sat very silently. I told them, we don't know what is going to come, but we are going to wait and watch. And don't worry for your safety. I'll announce if we have to move away. We waited. You won't believe it. Not even a billy. Nothing came that day. Khali, there was a red wattle lapping, which was calling, probably seeing us. He must be telling others, yahan mat aao, yahan human beings hai. 7:45, I said, I think kuch aane wala nahi hai. Patience khatam ho raha tha. I said, chalo, chale. Before I could complete chale, the sawing sound of a leopard next to the bush where I was sitting. So I had made everyone sit away in open area, and I was sitting next to a bush from which I could eye the complete hill. And this leopard had come next to the bush on the other side. So I said, everyone keep quiet. And about 10-15 seconds again later, the sawing sound, as we call it now, the leopard called out again. So immediately I got Navendu to move all the campers onto the roadside, and I went from the other side of the bush with my torch to see if I could see the leopard. But leopard being a leopard, it had already escaped and it had moved away. In that meantime, a jeep from the temple that came on the same road, and the leopard jumped in front of that jeep and went into the mountains behind. And then they see 20-30 kids standing on the roads just a few meters apart. And they got so angry. I mean, ऐसा कैसे आप जंगल के बीच में आप खड़े हो, अभी leopard cross करके आया. So anyway, I came there and we started walking. I told them, 8 kilometers, you're ready for the walk. So 8 kilometers walking in pitch dark, starlit sky. And I had a torch. So as I moved the torch, there would always be eye shine. पीछे से, sir, tiger है, sir, leopard है. Continuous, yeah, it's scary. I mean, most of them were first timers. 8:30 के बीच में हम लोग चल रहे थे. Navendu was at the fag end. And I was in the front. And all the campers between us. And kept walking. Finally, just about half a kilometer left, there was a tractor coming. The tractor gave us a lift and we reached the resort. And people were so thrilled. Thank God I'm aage वापस. So anyway, the fun was done and they went to their rooms. I said, Navendu, I don't know, they were all too scared. I was there na आगे. पर मेरे को तूने लास्ट में क्यों रखा? Because remember, where the last person doesn't have anyone behind him. But yes, very interesting experience.
Wow. This has been such an experience interviewing you, listening to all these experiences. We'll conclude our first part here. In the next part, we'll talk about the conservation point of view, the ecology point of view, about how you started with it, and your book as well. So thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure indeed.
So that's it for our today's program. Hope you enjoyed it. Do tune in for our next program. Until then, thanks for listening, and please stay tuned as our next program follows.